Okay, then I will introduce our next speaker. Stevi Frooninckx has started his career as a tax consultant at PwC Belgium, where he worked in M&A, international tax, real estate, Indian desk, sustainability teams. From there, he moved to different in-house roles before, both at Fortune 500 companies and private multinationals. I love the latter, okay, they could go crazy. In 2020, Steve co-founded Loctax, where he is currently Chief of Tax. Loctax empowers multinationals to contribute to well-functioning society by offering a collaborative tax governance platform. He just said to me, he said, you've seen this presentation in London, don't be too critical. There's nothing to be critical. I think this is an amazing presentation. So, Stevie, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I think we all in the room are convinced about the fact that the tax transformation or the transformation of the tax function is a necessity that we need to be starting if we are not already in the midst of it or if we already did it. So the future-proofing, the transformation of the tax function is very critical at this stage because this is something I picked up recently in another keynote. It's a very interesting statement, a question basically, which is like, do we live in an era of change or are we in a change of era? And I think the same is very true for, this was a keynote about macroeconomics, geopolitics, but the same is very true, I think, in the tax world. I think we can all say that change is very much something we are subject to. Regulatory change, business change, macroeconomic change, it always has tax implications. But maybe the other is also like, are we not living in a change of era? Are we not going to a new era as well in the tax world? And today I'm going to talk about, as you can see here, how to break up with old tax habits, a love story with technology, which is all about, first of all, we as tax people, we are attached or stick to a couple of habits which are somehow, or sometimes, let's say, refraining us from making that successful transformation. And I'm going to walk you through some of those habits. It's a bit the greatest hits of those habits because there are many habits, but let me walk you through. In the same presentation, I will also then explain how difficult it is to break up with those habits and how, in the end, technology can play a role, a very critical role, in breaking up in the sense that we can make a successful transformation of the tax function. Because as said, that is very critical. The world around us is transforming, so we as in-house tax, we need to transform as well. So let's kick it off. This is, I think, an interesting one, showing you how difficult it is for all of us to adopt new tools. It's a story of love and hate. It's a bumpy road, and it's nicely, I think, representing how difficult it is to break up with old habits, to try new things, and to successfully implement new things like tools. Can as well be new processes. Okay, let's kick it off. What are those habits that we better break up with? So first of all, and again, it's greatest hits of habits. There are many more, but I think these will hopefully come across as familiar to all of you. First of all, our relationship with Excel. We as tax people, we love Excel. And that is fine. I know Johan is also a big Excel lover. That's perfectly fine, but we need to be mindful of the fact that Excel also comes with limitations. We need to know where the good stops and where the evil or the bad starts when it comes to Excel. And this is maybe a nice overview showing you a bit the pros, and I don't think I need to elaborate on the pros. We all know that Excel is super flexible. We all know how to work with it. We have been working with it for 10, 20, 30 years. So that is a tool which I think is most commonly used by all of us. But if we look at what's potentially dangerous, what is not so positive around Excel, first of all, I think we typically tend to create a lot of Excels. For every problem, a new Excel. I've been in my in-house days, in-house tax days, I was creating, I think, 3 to 5 Excel sheets every week, if not one new Excel every day for a capital increase I needed to work on, for a quick calculation I needed to do, for maybe something around tax reporting. And the idea is, or the problem is that for all of those new Excels that we are making, we create a kind of a data trap. the data gets isolated, get ring-fenced, get trapped in this specific Excel sheet, which is problematic because then we end up with different sheets, isolated data sets from which we cannot leverage intelligence. Also, governance is very difficult in Excel. Think about access rights, think about audit trail, think about the history of what happened and the commenting, etc. It's also like a very interesting one, like what is the latest version of a specific Excel? We all know that we have the tendency to give names to Excel and that we then end up with a sheet which is called final v2, final, or whatever. So the latest version is always very difficult to find, though at the same time very important to have at hand. So we see there are clearly cons, and I think that kind of nicely shows us that Excel definitely has merits, but we need to be mindful of where what the limitations are. Secondly, we as tax people, we consume a lot of data. This is a bit a lame joke, but it's like the seafood diet. I see food, I eat it. We as tax people, we eat a lot of data coming from all corners in the organization. Legal, finance, treasury, the business, accounting. And the idea is that the data which we need is often hard to find, so we need to ask it to multiple stakeholders. But it's even more difficult to store it, to keep it somewhere in a structured fashion so that we can use it in the future as well. We typically we consume our data in a single nature or in a single use fashion, which is we ask it to a stakeholder, we consume it, and then it gets trapped in our inbox or again in an Excel sheet. So for us, it's very difficult to store the data in a very structured fashion and make sure that we can leverage on the same data going forward. Also, for tax people, we all know we need high quality data. If we have low quality data, just like eating seafood with low quality, the consequences can be pretty unpleasant. So here as well, for tax people, it's all about the quality and how do we ensure that we have that high quality data at our fingertips at all time in a structured fashion. So that is something to be mindful of. I think if you look here at the next one, this is all about time management. And I love this matrix, which is about plotting on the let's say, the axis, first of all, the importance of our work, and on the other hand, the urgency. And we tax people, we tend to spend most of the time on the left side of the matrix, the urgent side of the matrix. For us, everything is urgent because we are very wanted in our organization. Everybody needs us. We need to collaborate all the time with different stakeholders, but that leaves us little time to be in the most important quadrant of the matrix, which is the right upper quadrant, which is the important, not urgent type of activity, which is around relationship building, which is around transforming our tax function, which is around strategic and blue sky thinking. So this is where we should be, but we tend to be on the urgent side of things. So that is definitely also a habit which prohibits us to do the transformation, the future proofing of our tax function. If we continue here, it's a bit related. We are the spider in the web. Everybody needs us, I already told you. We collaborate with legal on group rationalization. We collaborate with finance on reporting, on compliance. We collaborate with the business because there is a new launch of new products, services. We go expansion into new countries. Everybody needs us. Everybody needs to rely on our tax expertise, which is logical because we know a bit of all those other domains, but nobody knows a thing about tax. That is very true, I think. So here the problem is we are involved in multiple collaborations, workflows, and that tend to be problematic because we don't have that structured. So we end up with emails going back and forth. We are in team chats. We are in team meetings. And this is also then resulting us to stay focused or preventing us to stay focused, to focus on what really matters. So we have that problematic collaboration overload, so to say. Go to the next one here. This is also an interesting one. I think it's fair to say that most of the organizations today are in a cloud ERP migration. So we are all going to S/4HANA or something similar. And this is taking a lot of resources from the organization. The entire finance organization, the entire finance team is deeply swamped in this ERP migration. And we as tax people, we get told to wait until the new ERP is there, to wait until it's finally implemented. We all know it's often delayed. It's often highly underestimated in terms of not only the budget, but the timeline. And we are told, wait until the new ERP is there. But in the end, if we are looking in the mirror, if we are honest, what is the new ERP going to bring us in terms of concrete tax value, in terms of support for concrete tax jobs? Maybe on the indirect tax side of things, yes, we can derive value from it. But other than that, what is it bringing us? So it's a bit like we are in a trap there that we need to wait for the new ERP to be implemented. At the same time, we are losing precious time, and we don't get the attention, the budget, the resources to continue with our own tax transformation. So that is an interesting one as well. This is, I think, I heard it this morning as well. We as tax, we are like the smallest sub-department of the finance organization. We are a bit the little sister of finance, so to say. And this is resulting in the fact that we are also treated in a similar fashion. So we are seen as a cost center, maybe a routine function. We put numbers into boxes. And that is, we all know, is not the case. Tax is extremely strategic. Tax is only gaining importance, and that will never stop. We are at the tipping point here that tax should be a board topic. Tax should be high on the agenda, but at the same time, if you look at the budget that you are getting as an in-house tax team, it's often the budget of last year minus X%. That's how it goes. So there is a bit of a paradox there, where at the same time, let's say the tension, the pressure on the in-house tax function has never been higher, while on the other hand of the paradox, the team is too small, the budget is too limited, and the toolbox is also fairly empty. If we look here at the last one, we also focus sometimes on digitalization for the sake of doing it. We are a bit maybe influenced by FOMO. We see others doing it. We hear about AI these days, about other buzzwords, and we have no clear plan. We have like no clear vision. So this is a bit like distracting, and we know we have been, I think, bombarded or brainwashed even about the transformation of the tax function for years, a decade, 15 years, 20 years, if not more. But do we in the end know what it means? Do we know what it takes to get started? So this is a bit like we have not always a clear vision, no clear plan, and this is then also preventing us for doing it successfully. So this is, let's say, a short list of habits which block us from making a successful transformation. Now, we all know that ideally we break up with those habits. At the same time, we also know from our private lives that breaking up with old habits, with bad habits, is very difficult. So let's have a look here. This is maybe also a funny meme, which is showing a bit how difficult it can be to break up with bad or old habits. And if we look here at typical blockers of a transformation, you have here, again, a nice overview of some of the most common reasons. I'll pick a couple of them. The first one is interesting because it's like something we hear all the time. I also heard it when I was in-house. We have always done it this way. This is typically something you hear from stakeholders like the local stakeholders you are working with. We are attached to our routines, the things we know, so this is preventing us to make progress. We tried it previously, but we failed. Scar tissue. This will not work in our type of organization, also something which we hear all the time. And this is interesting because this can be the case, but then the question you need to raise yourself is like, what is your plan B? Is this a fair statement to stick to, knowing that everybody else is transforming, our entire ecosystem is transforming? So an interesting one, which is very frequently put forward. First, the ERP migration project, I explained it. And then there is no time for new projects. We are too busy, or there is no money. We don't have the resources. And again, here, we all know that our environment is making progress, is changing. So can we accept this? Can we accept these blocking factors that prevent us from making the transformation? And then, as said before, what does it mean to transform? Because here we all know transformation typically has a couple of components. I think they will look familiar to you. It's not exhaustive. But the question here is, in what order should they come? Where do we need to get started? What is most important? If we look at tax people, by nature, we are very much about the details, which is logical because tax is very technical. And if we mess up with the details, the consequences are very severe. This is not only about financial implication, this is about risks and reputational damage. People can even go to jail. So it's logical that we mind about the details. But if we think about the transformation of our tax function and the application of the use or tools, we tend to overthink. And if we overthink, we are not getting started. Also, we approach it too theoretically. We want to have blueprints. We want to first have the full picture, et cetera, et cetera. We are multitaskers as tax people. As said, we at the same day work on both compliance projects, controversy, and whatnot. So we try to tackle also, when it comes to transforming the tax function, too many things at the same time. Or we focus on one specific tax job or one specific component only. And then, as said, we can get trapped in analysis paralysis, which is the baddest thing we can end up with, because we then know that our transformation is getting delayed, is not happening. We stick to our old habits, and then we are not getting out of the urgent part of the matrix, so we are not able to go to the important non-urgent side of things. What's even worse, as said, the rest outside of us is transforming, including the tax authorities. They are digitalizing. So this is really very problematic if we do not make that progress, if we get trapped in this cycle. I'm a big Stephen Covey fan. Maybe there are others in the room here that have read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If not, it's a highly recommended reading. And I like these quotes. They are very simple, but they are also very true. So if we continue here, the momentum for getting started, the momentum for kicking the transformation into gear has never been higher. As said before, that interesting question, are we living in an era of change, or is this a change of era? The only common denominator there is change. And we as tax people, we also see it in our daily lives. We get influenced by change all the time. As said, regulatory change, new regulations, more complex regulations, there are more compliance obligations, stricter deadlines, et cetera, But also our business is changing. Our organizations are changing because they need to adapt to changing macroeconomic situation or to what the competition is doing to not get disrupted. And whenever that happens, the business needs to follow. And if the business follows, it has tax implications because the supply chain is being impacted, or our transfer pricing model, or our pricing or whatever. So there is always change. And this is also something we know this is not going to, let's say, reduce in amount. This is only going to increase in amount going forward. This is the only thing which is predictable about the future. There will be more change. I think we can all agree on that. This is not new to you. I think a bit of an overview of what regulatory-wise is coming our way. It's already a bit outdated because we know there are already new regulations that have been announced, the EU FAST initiative, new transfer pricing rules I saw. So there is so much also on a regulatory perspective that is coming up. And again here, the question is, how can we future-proof our tax function? How can we successfully transform it so that we have the highest level of preparedness for upcoming change? So the question we all need to raise ourselves is this day one, or will it be one day? And if it is one day, can we live with the fact that for others, day one is already in the past? So that is a very important one to keep in mind, to be mindful of that momentum and to make sure that we get started, because as said, the most important thing is getting started. Now, I told you that I would explain you how technology can help us to break up with those old habits. I'm wearing this smartwatch, and this is a nice example. This watch is telling me when to go to bed. This watch is telling me when I need to stand up. This watch is also guiding me towards my weekly goals in exercising. So technology can somehow nudge us to break up with the old habits. So let us have a look here how technology in the tax world can help us. The first thing, of course, is I think we're all convinced that technology is the way forward. The question here is how? What do we need to pick first? How do we need to get started? And when? Also, like I think we are all set in those ERP migrations, but we're maybe building data lakes. There are maybe point solutions that are being implemented, the VAT engine, a transfer pricing documentation tool. But how to keep a plan, a roadmap, a journey that directs us into the right direction, that helps us to make the progress of the transformation. So we are left with a lot of questions here, not to mention then the new generation technologies like ML, AI, we already discussed it this morning. So this is sometimes also seen as a distraction. And here, I think the big learning or the big wake-up call, which we always need to remind is, we implement tools to do specific jobs. This is like a rule which in general life applies, like if you go to the do-it-yourself store, you don't go there to buy a hammer, you go there because you want to put your favorite painting at the wall for which you need a hammer, right? So you buy the tool for a specific job you need to do, which is in this case is the hanging your painting at the wall in a specific room. So the same is true for our tax work. We as tax people, we tend to believe that we are different, but at the same time, we are not very different. So whatever we need to have in terms of technology always needs to align to specific tax jobs that we want to solve, specific problems that we want to solve. So the big question here is always, which you can raise yourself, what are today my top 3 challenges, my biggest pain points, and this can help you to prioritize, to focus on the first things first, and to not be distracted by just the hype train of AI and machine learning and whatever that everybody else is maybe talking about. So for yourself, focus on those pain points, the biggest challenges. Here it's a bit like what I already said, like you need to understand what are we going to focus on, what is the biggest pain at this stage, where can we get the most value in the shortest amount of time. So we need to scope well, we need to be precise, we need to start small, but most important is we need to get started. Because not getting started, which is called in physics inertia, is the worst thing that can happen. The cost of inertia these days for in-house tax is dramatic. Because as said, the world around us is digitalizing, is transforming, the tax authorities as well, our stakeholders. So everybody is doing it, we cannot lag behind. If you look at common mistakes which are happening when a technology roadmap is being built, first of all, as already said, analysis paralysis, which somehow is, as said, can be explained by the fact that we are all about the details as tax people, but we should be mindful that we are not staying, let's say, trapped, or that we are not, let's say, suffering from that inertia. We need to get started. So analysis paralysis is the worst thing that can happen. As said here, sometimes you want to have those complex blueprints. So the technical architecture and the nice schemas that can be drafted full of interdependencies. But are they helping us to get started? This is nice maybe to have the high-level vision, the high-level picture, but often for us, in-house tax, it might be too complex. Data ingestion, This is always like the $1 million question, like how does the data get in the tool which we are going to use? But the question here is, can we integrate with other tools? So say you are, I don't know, using one or the other operational transfer pricing engine or whatever, and you need to source in data. The integrations typically from a technological perspective are possible, but the question is always, where do you need to source the data from? And is the data that will be sourced, is that in the quality, is that in the format which we want? Does the data, in our case, even live in a source system? Because as said, we as tax people, we may need data which comes from HR, from legal, from the business. It may as well just live in an inbox. It may live in a spreadsheet. It may live in the head of someone. So the question here is, don't be blinded by data ingestion. Be focused on these quick wins, those, let's say, the ways to get started, but don't expect silver bullets when it comes to data ingestion. This is an interesting one. Do we need to first fix the process and then implement technology, or the other way around? In any case, be mindful about the current process, the current way of working, and make sure that the technology that you implement is aligned to the process. If not, you will end up, in any case, with disappointment, because if your process is broken, then the newly implemented technology won't do the job. So that is very clear. We tried to fix too many things at once, so already explained it. The buzzword bingo, we already touched upon it. Yes, AI, wonderful. Machine learning, wonderful, but at the right moment in time. And for many companies, the reality is that the data structure which is required to apply these next generation technologies is not there yet. So take it step by step and get started with first things first, and only then you will be able to apply the next generation technologies, but not the other way around. And then the not invented here syndrome, I mean, I think if we build tools ourselves successfully, we should be proud, for sure. At the same time, there is a reason why software as a service is so successful. This takes away a lot of concerns and burden from the in-house tax function or from multinationals in general, because you don't need to be bothered by security, by maintenance, by updating the software. This is done for you. So be mindful if you build your tools internally. Again, if you can do it successfully, kudos. But other than that, be mindful that there is a reason why software as a service these days is eating the world. The overemphasis on technology is just reverting back to what I said before, like be mindful of the specific job that you need to solve, the specific challenge or the pain that you want to solve, and only then focus on the right tool that can solve that problem, and not the other way around. All right, so I explained to you the old habits, which are preventing us from making a successful transformation of the tax function. I explained to you why it is so difficult to break up with them, explained to you the momentum there is to nevertheless get started. I also explained to you how technology can help. The big question now is, how do we get started? How do all of you get started? And here is something which we prepared, which is a cheat sheet around how to get started from a transformation perspective. This is something which will be shared in the overall presentation materials, which you will get in any case. Let me just pick a couple of them, because we don't have the time to look at all of them. But first of all, I like the walk, run, fly metaphor. Again, the most important thing is that we walk. The worst thing is that we stand still. So please walk, but then first walk, and then you run, and then you fly. So be mindful that it is better to get started small, but nevertheless get started. And from there, you will make the progress which is required to the rest of the evolution from a technological perspective. So mind that walk, run, fly metaphor. That being said, it's important that even if you get started small, even if you get started simple, that you mind two important things. It should be scalable. So whatever you do now should be helpful or helping you to make from there further progress going forward. So make it scalable, make it flexible. make sure that you are not going into a direction where you will be stuck. So make it scalable and make it flexible is very important, knowing that the most important thing is to get started, but bear in mind that we want to scale from there and that we want to have the flexibility. The flexibility because, as said, the only thing which is predictable in the future is change. So if our solution is not flexible, we will be in trouble anytime soon. I also like the "what is your plan B" statement. Like, we have seen like the typical transformation blockers, very fine, all accepted, well, but what is your plan B? If you don't have the time now, if you don't have the resources, if your organization is not the right organization to do all of this, fine, but what are you then going to do? Knowing that everybody around you is doing it, including and foremost the tax authorities. So be mindful of the "what is your plan B" question. It can help you also towards your CFO. If you are having difficulties, you can also raise the same question to the CFO and ask the CFO, okay, fine, if I can't get started with one or the other tool, what is my plan B? What should I then do? Then around the business case and the return on investment.
Technology says you've got 6 minutes.
6 minutes. I'm done in 2 minutes, so there is then time for questions. So around the business case and the return on investment, be mindful that you also quantify the cost of doing nothing. That's the only thing I want to share here. If you don't do anything, it will cost you a lot of money. And it's very easy to quantify how the cost will go up by not investing right now, by not taking the first steps right now. So that is an interesting one. If you build a business case, don't look to the future only. Also look at what if we don't do anything? In terms of risks, in terms of efficiencies, in terms of new changes that will come our way. Mind collaboration, so very important. As tax people, we are constantly collaborating with all our stakeholders. So whatever we implement in terms of tools, they should be collaborative by nature. If not, again, you will be in problems because tax is all about collaboration. We have so many stakeholders we work with on a daily basis, so mind the collaboration aspect. I think so, as said, we will share everything with you afterwards. This is interesting also, you can find it in the deck, but we have a tax maturity assessment, which is an interesting survey where if you complete a couple of questions, you will get a scoring on the overall tax maturity of your organization. So I think an interesting exercise to do. It will take you 3 minutes only. And then finally, we are hosting a cocktail party tonight. So quick reminder here, all be welcome to the cocktail party immediately after the last session today. So open for questions right now.
Great, thanks. Question, anyone? Maybe a question for me.
Yeah.
In 2 sentences, describe your product, because I don't know what it is. Does it do a calculation? Does it control process? What does it do?
Yeah. So Loctax is a tax compliance risk and governance platform. So you hear 3 big buckets. Compliance is about installing end-to-end processes for all your global tax obligations, whether it is indirect tax, corporate tax, transfer pricing related. We bring you with workflows the structure for your end-to-end processes with clear roles and responsibilities, with smooth collaboration with your internal and external stakeholders, with full transparency and also full audit trail about everything what's going on in your organization from a compliance perspective. And this is only the beginning, because from this we capture the most essential data documents. They get structured into a repository, and once they are in the repository, you can unlock intelligence from it. So that is the compliance bucket of it. What we don't do is we don't calculate your tax liability. Secondly, we have risk management-wise, we have apps for your overall global risk management. So registers for your tax risks, and then how to manage them, how to monitor them, how to do reporting on them. And the same is true for controversy. We have an app for controversy management, so your global audits, litigation. And then from a governance perspective, we kind of bring, we are the operationalization of a tax control framework, so to say, so you can install controls, we have the workflows, as said, the structured processes, so you can operationalize your policies, and we bring that full transparency, that full audit trail, and make sure that the overall maturity of your in-house tax function is increasing. That's what we do.
Perfect, thank you. Any last question? I love that quote, summarize saying doing more of what doesn't work. I absolutely love that. Thank you so much, Steve.
Welcome.
Just going to take a minute to transition, and then in 1 minute, Carolina will be on stage.
See you in a minute.